Well, hello, my name's Louise Savage of Louise Savage Muses. Welcome to my channel if you've not joined me before. Welcome back if you are a Sterling supporter. So the month is March. Had to really think about it then. It's almost April. And I am very, very busily reading my way through the Women's Prize for Fiction long list. So that's occupying most of my reading time at the moment, but not quite all. Almost, but not quite. I'm now on the 9th of the 16 books and about to start the 10th. Thoroughly enjoying the reading. I think there's one that maybe I was a little bit, got a bit bored with. But so far, all of them I have thoroughly enjoyed and can completely understand why every single one that I've read has been longlisted. So that's all really good news for, I know lots of you are fans of the Women's Prize. So head to those books, raid the library, raid the local bookshop, whatever it might be. Anyway, because it is nearly the end of March, I thought I would talk to you about the reading prompt for March. So it's only be a very brief video today. Hooray, I hear you sigh. Yell. No, you don't sigh hooray, do you? Hooray, I hear you shout. Anyway, so I read Violets this month by Alex Hyde. Now, the prompt for this month was to choose a book that had your favourite colour on the cover. And I was really conflicted because I love my turquoisey, tealy colours. But I also love orange as well. So I did go out and buy a couple of books with orange covers. But actually I compromised because I realised that Violets had both. And on the back of this book, it says, there's a quote, "One of the most beautiful, haunting, heartbreaking and hopeful books I have read in quite some time. ... Nice use of ellipsis there. Utterly, utterly brilliant." And I don't know if you can see that, but it's quoted by a certain Savage Reed, so I may just be related to. A little bit of nepotism there, I suppose, although usually that seems to come the other way around. I don't quite know what promoting your mother is. Matritism, it probably ought to be. Anyway, he wanged on about this book all of last year, and I remember going to visit the lovely Kate at Harris and Harris Bookshop in Suffolk. I'm trying to remember the name of the town, village, I can't, to my shame. Might come to me while I'm waffling on. But anyway, I remember this had just, I think, arrived at the time. Maybe it wasn't last year, maybe it was the year before, I can't remember, time flies. Tempus fugit. But anyway, she was raving about this book as well. So it has intrigued me for a while. I love the picture of a sort of 1940s sort of, you know, very healthy looking young woman, and you know, it looks positive and assertive and so on. Anyway, so Violets, for those of you who haven't come across it, tells the story of two women, both of whom happen to be called Violet, and it absolutely is what Simon says it is. I was bowled over by this story, not just by the narrative, but also by the quality of the prose. It's beautifully lyrical, and it's told from the perspective of both Violets, if you like. So one chapter in one Violet's world and the next chapter in the other, and it kind of pretty much alternates, I think, almost exactly like that through the novel. And I think what I found really interesting was to start with, I don't think I even quite realised that they weren't the same person, and yet their circumstances are so very different. It's not a spoiler to tell you that one of the Violets is married, and as I say, it's set just after the end of right at the end of the war, the Second World War. And one of the Violets is married. She's living in Birmingham, and she miscarries right at the beginning, and that's kind of the start of the story. And the way that she's treated in hospital is quite disturbing, very disturbing. you know, her sort of position as a woman, and the kind of authority that she has around her own childbirth process is quite interesting, and especially in relation to perhaps the deference that is shown towards her husband. So I found all that really interesting. And then the next thing you know, you're reading about the other Violet, who is single and pregnant and dealing with all the sort of stigmas that might attract in that era. And that's a subject that's very close to my heart, because I had my first child when I was very young too. Although, to be fair, Violet isn't, she's in her 20s. It's more the sort of attitudes of the time than a reflection on her age. And what's wonderful about this is that both women are in sort of really distressing situations, and yet they demonstrate so much resilience. And you know, there's really sort of positive. I think my husband's just appeared. Tim, is that you? Hello, I'm just recording. I'll be out shortly. It's all right. So anyway, yeah, what was I saying? So no, they seem to be both very resilient in different ways, and as the novel progresses, their personalities begin to shine, and situations become less and less similar, and they start to sort of really take shape. And I suppose it reflects the way that you get to know people in real life. You know, you'll meet two people, and they might both be going through, you know, difficulties, and you may have sort of tremendous empathy for both of those people, and gradually you begin to unpick what they're like as personalities. So I thought that Alex Hyde did that brilliantly. The other thing I really loved about it was the language. So she sort of narrates the two stories. So we've got that structure that's interesting structurally, but then every so often, in fact, really frequently, I'll try and find an example on the page. She writes from as if you're talking to the unborn child that one of the Violets is carrying, and he's male, and or at least the poem addresses him as male, and he's pram boy or he's pill boy, and as the novel, you know, that's quite intriguing. You're thinking, why call him that? That seems really strange. So he's always addressed as pram boy, but that becomes increasingly clear as the novel progresses. And also that lyricism of those poetic sections, you know, it shows the whole sort of development of the baby within the womb, in the most beautiful, delicate, gorgeous writing, and that filters through into the prose. So there's actually quite a lot of rhyme, concealed rhyme within the prose as she's producing it, which I thought was quite miraculous, really. I thought the one of the women's journeys, obviously I'm aware I don't want to make spoilers, but one of the women's journeys involves ending up in post-war Naples. I loved that. And the other thing that sort of blew my mind, one of my daughters, well, three of our daughters live in Birmingham, but one of them lives down the road from a road called Raddlebarn Road. And it's a really unusual name, so it kind of stuck in my head. And it appears in this story, Raddlebarn Road. And again, I don't want to spoil it, but it made me sort of look up the history of that place. And I realised that one of the buildings in the novel is actually really familiar to me. So I loved all that the fact that this novel is rooted in history. And I believe Alex Hyde was inspired to write it partly because of her own father's story. So I suspect there's some biographical detail in here that maybe she's picked up from her own father's past. So I think this is an absolutely corking read. You could sit down and read it, you know, on a rainy afternoon. Yes, there are some very upsetting scenes if you're somebody who's had issues with fertility, maybe, or an unwanted pregnancy. You know, you might sort of steer away from reading this. And actually, in many ways, I think that would be a shame, because I think there's a lot to commend and celebrate here. And it's a novel which focuses on the difficulties of being female. So it has a kind of feminist thread, but it is so gentle and what's the word? There isn't a strident moment. Well, with the possible exception of one female character, actually. And if you've read the book, you'll know who I mean. I didn't find this strident at all. I found it a really gentle, thoughtful, beautiful, beautiful novel. Anyway, happy reading. I'm trying to remember what the prompt for April is. I think it's read a novel set in one of your favourite cities or your favourite city. So that's going to be interesting because it depends where I am. Favourite city here, favourite city in Italy, favourite city in Greece. I know I'm lucky to be able to bash on about all of that. Favourite imaginary city, I don't know whether it stipulates, so that's quite interesting. So I haven't decided what I'm going to choose for that yet, but I do want to choose something that's already on my shelves. So happy reading, everybody. Lovely to witter on again to you all. No, I should say muse, not witter. Stop demeaning yourself, Louise. Have a lovely month of reading ahead. Take care, everyone. Bye.